The gate agent told the elderly couple their tickets were fake and called security to escort them out. But when their passports finally hit the scanner, the entire terminal went silent. These weren't just passengers. They were the founders who had built this airline from nothing over 40 years ago. What makes the story unforgettable is that they never argued. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't demand special treatment. They simply stood there while security officers reached for their luggage. Because they knew something no one else in that terminal understood. And by the time the truth surfaced, reputations were shattered, careers were over, and one simple assumption had cost people everything. It was a cold morning at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Terminal 2 was buzzing with early departures. An 82-year-old man named William Carter walked slowly through the sliding doors. If you care about powerful black racism stories and dignity, subscribe so you don't miss the next story. His wife, Margaret Carter, 79, held his arm gently. They were dressed modestly. No designer labels. No luxury accessories. Just comfortable travel clothes and an old leather suitcase that had seen decades of trips. They were flying to Boston to attend their granddaughter's graduation from Harvard Medical School. William had insisted they arrive 3 hours early. He believed being early was a sign of respect. Margaret carried a small canvas tote bag filled with homemade cookies for their granddaughter. William still had a slight limp from hip surgery the previous year, but he refused to use a wheelchair. 42 years earlier, William and Margaret had started a small regional cargo airline with a single leased turboprop plane. Banks had rejected them repeatedly. Competitors had laughed at them. But through relentless work and risk, that tiny cargo company eventually expanded into Skybridge Air, now one of America's largest and most profitable airlines. 15 years ago, they sold their majority ownership and quietly retired. No press tours. No interviews. No social media. They stepped away from the spotlight and let the company grow without them. And over time, people forgot their faces. When they approached the business class check-in counter, a young gate agent named Ashley looked up briefly. Her eyes moved from their worn suitcase to Margaret's canvas tote. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone polite but skeptical. William handed her their printed boarding confirmations. Ashley scanned the tickets. A verification error popped up on her screen, a temporary system sync issue. Instead of checking manually, she frowned. "These tickets are invalid," she said, her voice louder now. Margaret blinked in confusion. "That can't be right. We purchased them directly." Ashley scanned them again. Same error. "I'm going to need you to step aside," she said sharply. "These appear to be fraudulent." Nearby passengers began to stare. William calmly opened a folder and showed credit card statements and confirmation emails. Ashley didn't examine them. Instead, she reached for her radio. Security to counter 12. That wasn't even the worst part. 2 airport security officers approached. One of them, a tall officer named Daniels, asked them to move away from the counter. "Sir, you're holding up paying customers." Paying customers. The phrase hit harder than anything else. Margaret's hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, from humiliation. Decades of work. Decades of building something from scratch. And now she was being treated like a scam artist. Ashley then called her supervisor, Mark Reynolds, the terminal duty manager. "They don't look like business class," she muttered quietly, but not quietly enough. Mark arrived, glanced at the couple, and made a decision within seconds. "Escort them out," he said. Officer Daniels reached for Margaret's tote bag. William's posture straightened. His voice remained calm but firm. "Please don't touch my wife's bag." For a brief second, everything paused. But the officers continued guiding them toward the terminal exit. What none of them realized was that a local news crew was filming a behind-the-scenes segment about airport operations that day. Their cameras had been rolling the entire time. Every accusation. Every dismissive glance. Every word. As the officers led the couple past the executive lounge, a woman inside stood up abruptly, knocking over her coffee. Her name was Linda Martinez, Senior Vice President of Operations for Skybridge Air. She had been with the airline for 28 years. William Carter had hired her personally in 1998. Linda rushed out of the lounge and across the terminal floor. "Stop! Stop right now," she shouted. The entire area froze. She reached Margaret first, taking her hands. "Mrs. Carter. Mr. Carter. It's Linda." Margaret looked closely, then her expression softened. "Linda, from the Denver office?" Linda turned toward Ashley, Mark, and the security officers. Her composure shifted instantly. "Do you have any idea who you're removing from this terminal?" she demanded. "These two people founded this airline. There would be no Skybridge Air without them. Scan his passport. Now." Mark hesitated, then took William's passport and placed it on the scanner. Within seconds, the system pulled up a restricted executive legacy profile. Founder status, lifetime executive clearance. The color drained from Mark's face. Ashley stared at the screen in disbelief. Officer Daniels stepped back immediately. Silence spread through the terminal. Within an hour, the airline's CEO was on a direct video call with William, personally apologizing. Within 24 hours, the news footage aired nationwide. Within 2 days, the clip had gone viral across social media, amassing millions of views. Ashley's employment was terminated. Mark Reynolds was removed from his management role. Officer Daniels was placed under review. The airline implemented a new mandatory verification protocol across all U.S. terminals. The internal training program that followed was named the Carter Standard. Later that afternoon, the CEO arrived at O'Hare in person and escorted William and Margaret onto their flight to Boston. This time, not to business class, but to a private executive cabin prepared just for them. When a reporter later asked Margaret how she felt, she gave a simple answer. "We built this airline so people could travel with dignity." They had created something that carried millions of Americans safely across the country. Yet for a brief moment, they were treated as if they didn't belong inside it. Sometimes the people who build empires become invisible within them. And sometimes, all it takes is one passport scan to remind everyone who truly owns the sky.